I noticed that you said something in there about, you would sort of define the success of a given company based upon the completeness of that layer, or
Mhm.
this 8 layer, how complete is their stack? Is that like go for everybody? Is everyone who wants to succeed in this market going to need to have that, for whatever, to whatever degree, vertically integrated stack that goes
Mhm.
all the way up?
I think, well, the way I stated it in the paper is the principle is presence is not completeness. In other words, just because you have a presence in that part of the stack, governance or your data or your software infrastructure and operating system, because you have something there doesn't mean you have completeness. You don't have everything that would be in that stack. Exactly. And you you may want to own all of what's in that particular layer. You may not be the right company to own everything in that layer. It's not possible. Either that's just is not where you come from, or the distance to travel between here to there. So how you go to market, the answer is, well, what does the rest of it look like, and who's supplying that, and how much of that is at a customer's location already you're trying to integrate with? How much is it? Are you partnering with people to go develop that part of it, or you're doing it through your ecosystem, marketplace, et cetera. So that completeness can be filled multiple ways, but that's the answer you want to find out. So talk about how give us this picture of what it looks like in 6, 12, 18 months. And if you're really going to own that, do I believe you're capable of doing that? In your judgment, right, as a buyer, am I willing to invest that, yeah, that's the company that's going to do that? Or,
Uh,
you and I talk to you know, earlier stage companies all the time, and we're going to do this, we're going to take over that. Like that's a
right.
great BHAG, right? And you might, but that's a tall order. So you have to have, that's the idea, is just presence is not completeness.
Yeah, I like that phrase. I want to talk about what everyone is talking about, because why
Okay.
shouldn't we? And that is, a model, diminutive little model that's 2.8 trillion parameters called Kimi, K3.
Kimi, you don't mean the F1 driver for Mercedes? Different Kimi?
Yeah, yeah, Kimi, but they should not be confused with one another.
We are talking about him too, but no, we're talking about
Yep, he was on
open
the
weight
podium this
model.
weekend, so he did okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole Kimi, fanaticism and rejectionism and aggravation and delight, and it is a mixed bag right now, and you see, as we were just talking about with the stack, that given the persona of a given vendor, their profile, they all have a different stake in this game, and you can see that their approach to that model and Chinese models in general based upon that. And there's no better example of that than Anthropic, which is very much against Kimi and its ilk, suggesting that basically the Chinese labs, and in this case Moonshot AI, which built Kimi, is using diffusion tactics and fleets of accounts that are using its API calls to basically query the internals of whichever model, and they were saying it was fatal
Right.
to build Kimi of K3.
The irony
Forgetting
of which,
put
of course, Anthropic did
well,
that.
I was
So,
just thinking, just time. When did Fable 5 come out? How long does it take to distill a model of that scale? I'm going to say the time it takes to build this needs a little more time than has elapsed since Fable 5 was available for
for
others to
sure.
use. So I'm not quite sure that's a defensible position, but as you said, it is totally, a sort of bottle, what am I trying to say? Kettle calling the pot black kind of
Right.
moment here,
Mhm.
where, you know, that all of these models, the frontiers especially, were built upon the shoulders of those who preceded them. And it's
Mhm.
always been that way. It's always been that way with software in general.